We're live, I tell you. It's Lao-Shi Lawrence McElroy. It is Tuesday morning, March 31st, and here we are, Water Tiger for West Babylon, for not only the greater community, but especially for those members of our West Babylon Public Library ongoing 24 posture studio style class, which is, like many things these days, currently been suspended. So today, we're going to start with a little warm up. You'll need a chair or something secure to take balance out of the equation of the lower body stretch, and then a little play that will be an exploration of adding some variety to the way that we approach playing our form. So there we go. Come back here. I just want to shake out a little bit. Just loosen stuff up. Now, we're doing the same lower body stretch that we did last week, utilizing a chair to take balance out of the equation, because we really want to focus on the stretch. It's sort of an isometric stretch. It's an intense movement, a hold, and then a release. And the idea is the release, the contrast between the two, help to loosen stuff up. So again, something that's about the right height so you don't have to lean into it. And you want to make sure as you're doing these stretches that you're not leaning into the chair. If I'm doing a side lift with my leg, I'm not compensating, tilting the opposite direction. If I'm doing a kick back, I'm not leaning forward. So the chair is there to maintain shoulders over torso, over hips. So that's the idea. Now, if you had a hip replacement, possibly these will move outside of your protocol. Don't do them. Do something else that works for you while we're doing our chair stretch. So I'm going to start facing you as we do the leg lift. The leg lift, the toes, both sets of toes forward. So the feet stay parallel, even though one will be on the ground and one not. Moving the chair so it's in the right spot. Crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of one foot. The knee of the weighted leg is open and the knee of the stretching leg is open. Now keeping the leg mostly straight, I lift that leg up, out, away from my body. Holding, but not holding the breath. And then releasing. Coming back in, or out, sorry. And back. I hope the picture is clearer for you guys than it is for me. Mine keeps flickering. Hasn't done that before. So hopefully this is still a good live video release. Now we're going to do, after 3 on one side, we'll do 3 on the other. I got to talking. I'm not sure if that was really 3. So crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the weighted leg. Weighted leg, knee is open. Stretching leg, knee is open. Now as you go out farther away from the body, putting a big compression stretch on that hip flexor and a little bit in the glute, release. And you release and everything opens up. Be sure that you're not muscling yourself too high. I mean, I can really force this and get higher, but if I do, I'm going to end up with a problem. And release. Notice we're doing groups of 3. We're switching back and forth between the sides after every 3 reps. When I first introduced these stretches to a public class, we do all on one side first and then all on the other. Somebody put on one of the comment forms that we took, the evaluations, like, that's a little bit long on one leg for us. It's like, oh, I wish somebody would have told me while we were doing it. So kick back. Again, I have crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the weighted leg, all in alignment, hips underneath torso, torso underneath shoulders, both knees slightly bent. There can be a tendency in kickback to simply raise the foot from the knee. We don't want to do that. We want to raise the foot from the hip. So that kickback, a leg that's mostly straight, foot is still in dorsiflex, the toes are still pulled toward me, and then release. Some people for this one will go to a plantar flex. Once the toes out away from me, I want to keep the toes toward me. Here's 2 on the first leg. Very big compression stretch in the glute on that side, up into the lower back, and release. And here's 3. So our exploration of variety today is going to be something a little bit different. Well, something in my office that I meant, a visual prop and release. Because this particular way of approaching variety in our Tai Chi practice comes from a studio exercise that I call lottery, because we have these little slips of paper with different ways of approaching play. Changes in pace, changes in focus, changes in attitude as you play, that sort of thing. Other leg, crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the weighted leg. And one of the approach selections on those slips of paper is drunken. By the way, we have the little slips of paper because when we're doing lottery, everybody pulls a slip of paper and they have to play their Tai Chi based on that particular approach. I'm not going to tell you what the others are because I want them to be a little bit of a surprise when we probably add them in this series at some point. Here's 2. Again, big compression stretch in that glute. Everything's very active, and then release. If you can, while you're stretching, you want to make the activation of the stretch mostly on an exhalation. But we're holding it for a while. Last one. So you may have to go through a couple of breath cycles here, just every time you exhale, see if there's a little bit of ease in where you're at in intensity. So maybe you can crank it up just a little bit, but again, don't go too far. And release. So the last of the 3 is an ankle and a knee rotation. The ankle rotation, ideally, both of them, the thigh would be parallel. But if you can't get it that high, that's okay. All you want is the ball of the foot up off the ground. And make sure you have space between you and the chair for the knee rotation, and then isolating the ankle as much as possible. So only the ankle is rotating about 3 times in one direction, about 3 times in the opposite. Now with a light plantar flex, so my toes are pointed down toward the floor, but I'm not overactive here. Now just from the knee on down, like a little pendant being swung around about 3 or 4 times in one direction, about 3 or 4 in the other. Then change the position of my chair for the angle. And the other side. Maybe this knee can be higher than the other knee, not above parallel, but at parallel or below. Now just the ankle, it's as if you're holding on to your ankle. Don't want any of the rest of the lower leg to move. There's 1, nice and slow here. 2, really exploring that range of motion. 3 in the first direction. 1, 2, 3 in the second. Now that light plantar flex. 3 in the other. Oh, by the way, probably should have said something on the outset, because I know the video is described as approaching a drunken play, and I just mentioned drunken play a little while ago. Don't go open a bottle of wine and down as much as you can before you start doing the movement. That's not what we mean here. It's a drunken attitude, not actually being drunk when playing. That's, legal would want me to say, don't play your Tai Chi after you've been drinking. But if you can bring a little flavor of that into what it is that you're doing, great. The idea is to loosen this up, because a lot of times as you're playing, you're doing your rails, everything's tight, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. And everything is a little bit too activated. So the idea of drunken play is to loosen things up as if you had a little alcohol. By the way, there is a drunken style of Tai Chi. Some Chinese arts, martial arts, have a drunken approach to whatever their style is. It's a little hard to find on Google these days because there's a Drunken Tai Chi Master movie that's out there. There's, of course, Jackie Chan's Drunken Master videos. And there they, sort of crowd the Google search. But anyway, so all you want to do is that idea that, that control that we seek to have over things is a little bit loose. So as you're playing, you can start with rails. And it's just a little looser in your play. Maybe taking a moment in the steps, a little waver, also helps to keep that idea of the spine hanging like a string of pearls, because the spine needs to stay loose. And that's one of the things that we can have a tendency to hold tight. You still want to remember that you're doing your Tai Chi play, but looser, right? If we add the rotation, last week we introduced folks in our Monday live session for our Sachem Public Library friends and the greater community to walking the rails with rotation, right? So you get a little bit of upper body going, a little idea of not quite being all together. Maybe you allow the ball to get a little bit magical and not. So you can find the reality of the ball as you're playing. So it's a little bit looser, right? As you're doing a floor exercise with a posture or your form to date, whatever that form may be. And I'll stick with Parting Wild Horses mane as sort of my main. But, step into it. Find your place. A little wave forward, maybe a replanting of the foot. Gaining control while still being loose within your play. Now, it's funny that one of the ways that I talk about how snake creeps down in the 24 into Golden Rooster stands on one leg, in Water Tiger School lineage, is this idea of the tiger's mouth. Most people play this as a grab. It can also be a strike. But one of the ways I describe it is like you're handing a glass of wine to somebody. A lot of the drunken style approach to Tai Chi will have more like that's a strike. The glass comes back toward yourself because you're doing things like that. Right? But again, Parting Wild Horses mane, play with various levels. We don't want to get too inebriated, pretend inebriated in our play, but It's that idea, loosening up, challenges our balance a little bit, helps us to play when we go back and do things normally. With being loose, allowing the fact that the spine hanging like a string of pearls is not always going to stay straight up and down. And that's fine. So, boom. So whatever you are doing and playing in a drunken style, you want to go back and play normally to sort of find the contrast. In one of my pre-recorded sections this last week, I did a variety choice of playing blindfolded and playing with weights. And after you've done that, you want to go back and play whatever it was you did play, stripping away that little piece of variety that you did. So you have not only a contrast, but you also are offered then the opportunity to explore what your little variety play may have altered your normal play. You know, are you, as you're doing rails with rotation, if you did it in a drunken play, are you feeling looser than you normally do? If so, that's a good thing. You're parting the wild horse's mane. Again, ideally forming the ball here as opposed to holding the ball and then stepping. The ball forms by the time the foot is down. The things feel looser, joints a little bit more open. And by open here, I don't mean more extended. There's less tendon activation, less muscular activation in your play. Things are a little bit softer, a little bit looser, a little bit freer. So, a drunken approach to playing your Taichi floor exercises and forms to date. Just be loose, just be relaxed. A lot of times I'll actually suggest that, you know, play just the normal, your normal set, your normal floor exercises, your normal form should feel like you're just a little bit buzzed, just a little bit. Not enough to be waving around, but to me, and what I tell my students on sometimes quite a regular basis is, yes, there's a drunken Tai Chi form, but to me, no, this is iced tea in here. All of Tai Chi is drunken Tai Chi. So have fun. Don't really go out and get hammered and then play. Do this in your mind to loosen things up, to relax, to allow more full body movement with less effort. So from Tai Chi Lottery, from Variety is the Spice of Tai Chi, this has been a little introduction to drunken Tai Chi. However, I want to mention something for this particular viewing. Next Tuesday, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. You should all be meditating without me leading you. during this time that we're alone together. But I thought I'd start both the Monday and the Tuesday session with a little Qigong-based meditation for everybody. And for the Tuesday session next week, we're going to do a physical stretch warm-up. You need one of two things. There are other things that you can use, but I'm going to suggest one of two. One is one of these, a nice stability ball, maybe a little bit smaller than this. We're going to use it as we move. But if you don't have a stab ball, then what you need, free range stab ball, is like a hand towel that'll put about the same distance between your hands. So your basic homework assignment, you don't have to go out and buy a stab ball, but find a towel at least that will work if you don't have a stability ball, a yoga ball, a Swiss ball, to do next week's live session for West Babylon. So for now, thanks again for joining me. I hope this looks better on Facebook than it does on my own screen. And we'll see you soon. Wash your hands. Stay calm. Stay aware. Stay aware. Stay safe. Stay well.